The biggest problem people have in staying organized is not that they're lazy. Believe me, a lot of incredibly hardworking people still struggle to keep track of everything. It's also not necessarily that we're messy or impulsive. I think there's actually one different barrier that probably holds most of us back from being organized and for keeping life together. And so today I'm going to talk about how you can overcome that major barrier, what system actually works. And then after we've established that big system shift, I'm going to give you a quick list of little tools or hacks I use to just stay organized day to day. So I think the biggest barrier to staying organized for most people is that we're rushed. We're so busy in the day-to-day to-dos, we have so many obligations, so many roles to play, that we just don't feel like we have the time to think about how do I want to organize my day, how do I want to organize my tasks, and we just run on autopilot. Then suddenly we realize we forgot to do a task because we were just so overwhelmed and focused on what we were doing. And sometimes it doesn't even reflect our priorities or values. Like I recall sometimes when I'm really late to RSVP to a wedding because I just didn't remember to do it even though it was important to me, or I forgot a friend's birthday, not because I didn't care, but because I was so focused on everything else and rushed in my day-to-day that I didn't take time to think about what day is it? What do I need to remember to do? What's important to me? So I genuinely think the one big shift you can make to stay more organized is to just leave even just like 5 to 10 minutes in the morning to evaluate what's important to you. What have you been thinking about lately you need to get done but have kind of been avoiding? What are those long-term tasks that you often put off for the day-to-day to-dos? What's the calendar day? Do you have any appointments or things you need to get done today? And also, what tasks, if you accomplish them, would relieve a lot of stress? Asking yourself these questions, writing down a list of priorities, can really set you off on the right foot. If you don't take that time pocket to evaluate what your priorities are and whether those priorities align with your values, and also to check in with yourself, what are just the things I just logistically need to get done. If you don't remember to do that, you will have such a harder time scrambling to remember all the tasks and to-dos you need to get done. Because realistically, in today's society, we have a lot to think about all the time. Now, I do think it takes a little adjustment to get used to creating that time in your day, but as you start doing it more regularly, it becomes automatic, more streamlined, and you'll find that over time, the payoff is so big because you're actually accomplishing the things you need to get done, you're remembering those to-dos, that you'll be motivated to keep doing it in the future. And I know this is such a simple solution. It's like, oh, basically write a to-do list. I don't even necessarily mean that. I literally am just emphasizing the time. Like, if you don't like writing things down, you don't have to write it down. If you need that time to engage in some other type of task to orient you to the day, that works. Do what works for you. But what I'm saying is the key part of this is to have an allotted amount of time where you can use your system for getting organized so that you can set every day off on the right foot. It's about slowing down and being intentional about how we're spending our time and really our lives. Now that I've shared that with you, I want to share just a few quick tips and hacks for little things I do to stay organized. But again, these are just like little things that help me out. They're not going to make as big of a difference as the actual time pocket in your mornings creating a plan. The first little tool I use that helps me stay organized is Google Keep. Google Keep is essentially this workspace where you can create lists of reminders or to-dos or little notes to yourself. And no, I'm not sponsored to say this, but I love if you go to keep.google.com. You can create a task list or a reminder list all online. You can color code it, and you can also access it both from your computer as well as your phone or really any kind of browser anywhere. There's also something about the aesthetics of Google Keep where when you click it, it just checks it off and blurs it out in this really satisfying way so that when you have a done to-do list, you feel very accomplished. Sometimes those little things help motivate me. A second tool I use is to use my Google Calendar. And again, for me, that's just the easiest because it's an online thing that I can access anywhere at any time on my phone, on my computer, wherever I am. I also like Google Calendar because it will send me reminders about meetings or appointments I have coming up. Speaking of reminders, I'll also set reminders on my phone, basically alarms that will go off and indicate to me what I need to get done. Whether it's to take a medication or even to tell a friend happy birthday, those things remind me to get what I need done. Another strategy I use is to take longer breaks. And it's not just work less time. I mean, maybe work for longer chunks of time and then take a longer break. I feel like the Pomodoro Method is really popular, where you have these short little runs of time you're supposed to work and then you have a short little break over and over again. And for some people that works, but I guess for me, sometimes when I get into the flow of working, I almost don't want to be interrupted by my forced break. Like, I want to take the breaks a little bit more organically as to when I'm fatigued, when the flow isn't flowing anymore. And when I take those breaks, I actually want to rest my brain. I want to go get a cup of coffee. I want to go on a short walk. I literally want to lie down and close my eyes for 20 minutes. Obviously, how you work in work versus breaks might be specific to the person. That's just what I've found works for me. Another helpful yet simple strategy I use is to organize my belongings and files based on how often I use them. So some of this strategy is actually automatic, like maybe how you organize your kitchen is based on how often you use a tool, like maybe you keep your cups and your plates really easily accessible versus that one weird tool that you only use occasionally. But I think sometimes we forget to do that on our computer files, and we forget to do that in other categories of our home. I'll even do this for my clothing. In my closet, I'll keep things towards the right that I use the most often. And also on my desktop, I'll keep certain folders like big and bolded, really easily accessible when they're the ones I use daily or really regularly. So I think this is a principle you can inject into a lot of different organizing areas in your home. Just think about how often do you reach for something or do you use something, and is it easy to get and easy to put away? I think that'll keep your home way more streamlined, and potentially your computer too. A sixth strategy I use is to say no to opportunities that don't fit your values. I actually have a whole video on this topic. I'll actually link it at the end of this video if you want to watch that next. But essentially, it is so important that we clarify what our values are, what our priorities are, how we want to be spending our time, so that it can become easier to say no to the things that just aren't a priority right now. Essentially, decluttering what's not as important and decluttering those things from our lives can open up more space to put energy into the things we care about. Anyway, those are some of the tips I have for how I stay organized. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. It's a great way to support the channel. You can also subscribe below for more videos on simple living, minimalism, and building an empowering mindset. I'll link that video I mentioned after this. Thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!